So tonight I'm responding to Biani Coronada's claim that GMOs have a negative effect on us. She supported the following claims with 1. GMOs have negative effects on our bodies, 2. GMOs have negative effects on the environment, and 3. There are unknown dangers of GMOs making them unsafe to use. The first issue I had with the first claim was that the evidence she used came from unauthoritative sources such as Organic Authority, the website, and Calorie Bee. Specifically, the information used from the Organic Authority article came from 2010, which is not quite recent enough considering the amount of studies and research that has been conducted on GMOs since then. Also, the author that wrote the article was Shiloh Urban, who is a freelance writer, not an expert opinion on GMOs. Moreover, Calorie Bee is a website that's self-described as a site created by fitness, nutrition, and health enthusiasts, sharing our unique expertise and knowledge. Therefore, they're primarily concerned with exercise, not quite experts of GMOs, so the information she used from those sites is diminished, since they're not expert opinion. The second issue I have with the first claim is that she claimed that GMOs require a large amount of pesticides according to Organic Authority. However, according to the University of California, San Diego, GMOs have no need to spray with synthetic pesticides or apply BT mixtures topically due to the toxins in their tissues. Therefore, the use of pesticides as an argument that they have a negative effect on our bodies is not necessary. Finally, she also claimed on the first claim that the gene inserted into GM soy increases the risk of intestinal infection as it functions as a bacteria once it enters the liver. However, there was no evidence given to prove that it has a negative effect on our bodies. Additionally, according to Laura Kubitz, who's a manager and media communicator with a master's in agricultural education, there is no published evidence that GMO foods generate unique gene or protein fragments that would affect the body. Therefore, the functioning as a bacteria once it enters the liver would not actually affect the body negatively. The second claim she made was that GMOs have negative effects on the environment. However, to support the claim, she used a study from Mother Earth News that says that it showed adverse health effects on rats and bees, and she was arguing that they had negative effects on animals. However, the evidence she provided was a raw generalization that failed to support the point of GMOs having negative effects on the environment, and doesn't provide enough evidence to show how it affects other aspects of the environment. Additionally, the Mother Earth News article that she used does not cite the study that it discusses, such as who conducted it, when it was conducted, and there's no statistical evidence to support the claim. It only has a broad discussion of its effects. My issue with the third claim made, which was that there are unknown dangers with GMOs, making them unsafe to use, was that the first piece of evidence provided was a value claim. She stated that almost every health website states that it is unethical for them to be distributed. Generally, before something goes public, there are plenty of tests run to figure out the effects. However, since it's a claim of fact speech, there is no actual evidence being provided in that, such as statistical evidence or any concrete evidence to prove how GMOs are unsafe. It only claims that there are unknown dangers. She also provides this contradictory piece of evidence that states there are no good evidence that proves there are no negative or positive effects on the body, which leads one to assume then that GMOs are neither good or bad. In conclusion, there was not enough evidence provided by the advocate, nor any authoritative evidence provided to prove that GMOs have a negative effect on us.
I feel like, I'm going to be hearing a lot about GMOs tonight. Structurally, everything's good. Karla, I like the fact that on the first point, you did have distinct responses that you were giving on individual points, and you bothered to try and organize them a little bit so it will be easier for us to follow. And for the most part, you had good information on those points. Sometimes you need to make the argument, the declarative claim. You summarize the argument pretty well, but I think you want to make the claim a little bit first, and then make the presentation of the evidence, and then summarize it. It feels sometimes like you've got it a little bit backwards, but it was pretty clear and easy to follow. Like on the second point, you basically quoting the one UC San Diego people and their conclusions on this, and I thought that was perfectly fine, but what is the claim that's being made there? That wasn't quite as clear. I like the challenge that you also had about the advocates' evidence without that they didn't have any evidence on that soybean bacteria issue, and then you had a nice counterclaim that suggested that there's no demonstration that there's any harm that's going here. So you are engaging on the arguments that the advocate's presenting. You're thinking about the information they're using and kind of contrasting it to your argument, and then you've got a nice counterclaim that responds to that. So I thought that that was a very complete argument on that first point. The second point was not quite as clear. You criticize the use of the rats and the bee studies, and you suggest that it's making a broad generalization. That's an okay press, but I don't know exactly why there's something unreasonable about making the generalization based on the animal studies that they are looking at. If it's limited, if there are more animals that have to be evaluated, if the measurement was insignificant or something like that, that would maybe be something that would give that press that you're making here a little bit more substance. As it is, I think it's a reasonable argument to make. It's the kind of thing that I think you can make almost immediately after the argument. I just think some data would have helped it on that particular point. And you come back to the issue here that comes up also on the third point, that there's no study on what the benefits are, what the harms are, and that's again a reasonable criticism of the advocate's argument. The argument about the third point being a value claim, I think that's a reasonable press, but there's also an argument that I think is underlying that value, which suggests that we don't know enough about these kinds of things. That's a presupposition of the quote that the advocate used, and you I'm afraid you almost back that up by saying, well, we don't have information to show that it's harmful, we don't have information to show that it's safe. I'm going, okay, so in essence, even though it's a value argument, the underlying factual dispute here is whether or not we know enough about these particular products. And I think that, I don't want to say you shoot yourself in the foot, but I think the argument that you end up making is not nearly as responsive, and in fact is potentially supportive of the advocate's position there. You're rushing, which I know there's a lot to cover, but you've got a couple more minutes and you can pace yourself a bit. Okay, thank you.